Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sports Psych Show. Thanks so much for joining me. Now today, I'm really excited to be joined by throw-in coach, motivational speaker and author, Thomas Gronnemark. Thomas, welcome to the Sports Psych Show.
Thanks.
It is awesome to have you on. I've obviously over the last couple of years read all about you and know about your brilliant work at Liverpool with your throw-in tuition. But you do a lot of stuff, so you have an absolutely fascinating background, and you're multifaceted. So it's not just the throw-in coaching. There's lots of strings to your bow. So why don't you tell the Sports Psych Show audience a bit about yourself, how you got into helping players with their throw-in. Start at the beginning for me.
Yeah, I'll start at the way I'll start. I've been playing football for approximately 18 years myself. I was a pretty good footballer. I was reaching the highest youth level in the U18 in Denmark, but I realized I couldn't be a professional football player. So even though I had a very good throw-in and I could run fast, so in my late teen years, I was shifting sport to athletics. I was running 100, 200, 400 meters and relays, and yeah, that went pretty good. The 6 years I was training, I was on the Danish National team, several Danish championships, and in 2000 with my club team, we were European champions in the 4x400 meter relay. So I think pretty successful. In 2002, I had my best year ever. I just set personal records on 100 and 200 meters, but I missed something because I've been training in a large group in a big city in Denmark called Aarhus, but I was moving to a small city called Skive in the western part of Denmark, and yeah, it was because of love. I met my wife, and sometimes love makes you do crazy things. So even though I had personal success in athletics, I was training alone without any coaching. So I thought, hey, I want to find another sport. It should be a team sport because I love the teamwork, also in football, but also in my relay years in athletics. So I changed sport to bobsleighing. I went on the Danish National bobsleigh team, and that was a little special challenge for me especially because I didn't like to ride in roller coasters. So as when I was a kid, my mom always said, hey, come and try the roller coaster. It's very funny for kids, but I always puked. So I was a little bit nervous before my first bobsleigh ride. But I think that the bobsleigh sport is 100 times harder than a roller coaster, but I didn't puke, so I managed to be in the Danish bobsleigh team for 4 years from 2002 and to 2006. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And it was in the middle of that bobsleigh period in 2004, I thought, hey, if I can make a long throw-in, can't I teach other players to do it? So I went down to my local library in my hometown and tried to find that book about throw-ins, but there was no book at all, and I tried to find something on the internet, nothing at all there, nothing serious at least. So I made my own throwing course. I used approximately 6 months to see, hey, how should I place my hip? How should I have a good grip? How should I make a good run in? And so on and so on. And then in the fall, 2004, October 2004, I had a throwing course. And to be honest, I didn't really know if it would work because I only tested it on myself. And again, of course, a youth team or amateur team could be totally super, but I had the courage to ask a local Superliga team called Viborg FF from Denmark, and they said yes, and yeah, the players improved a lot. They scored a lot of goals on the throw-ins, and the club has had its best placements in the club's history that year. So everybody was satisfied. And the year after, I was coaching a big Danish club called FC Midtjylland. And yeah, since then I've been coaching a lot of top clubs, professional clubs in Europe. So yeah.
Something completely different, that's for sure. And what an incredible background you have. Sport has obviously come, well, I don't know if it's come easy to you, but it's something obviously that you've excelled in. And hey, look, this is the Sports Psych Show. So I'm really interested in opening up some interesting conversations around sports psychology and your experiences in sport. And let's go back to we could go back to the running, but certainly the bobsleigh, because you said something really interesting there, Thomas. You said, I was really nervous. I hated roller coaster rides, and hey, I hated roller coaster rides. I don't like heights. And you said I was really nervous. Yet you grew to compete with the Danish National team. So how did you overcome those nerves? How did you deal with those nerves? And how did you manage your psychology in and around bobsleigh?
Yeah, first of all, I'll say that when I started on the Danish bobsleigh team, it was, I think, June 2002. And the first 3 months or so, it was only start training, because normally the summer period in bobsleighing, you're only training the start, and it's only, like pushing 60 meters, and then you're running uphill a little bit, and then you're running back to the start track again. So there's nothing in the summer to be afraid of. But then in October, you're normally starting with the bobsleigh training itself on the normal track, and a normal track is approximately 1.5 kilometers long. You are driving again approximately 130 to 150 kilometers per hour in top speed, so it's a very dangerous sport. But I realized when I had to try it the first time in October 2002, I realized I was afraid. I was very nervous, and I think most people, no matter how big muscles they have, they are very nervous of going in a bobsleigh the first time. If they aren't nervous, they are surely thinking afterwards, I should have been nervous. So but that's one of the advice I'm giving, especially if I'm speaking to young people, that if you're nervous or afraid, try to talk with someone. Try to say that, it's an issue for me, and because a lot of people are trying to deal with this issue themselves, and but most of the time I think it can be too hard, and if it's just building up, and then a lot of people are just breaking down or suffering too much. So the thing I did before my first ride, I said to the bobsleigh pilot Tom, that was our pilot, I said to him, I really love to try this, and I'm totally motivated, but I'm just so nervous. And he said to me, that's normal. Everyone are nervous when they're driving the first time. So he said, okay, in this first run, I'll find a bobsleigh where the pilot can brake the bobsleigh. Normally it's the brakeman who has to brake, and he has to brake at a certain time after the goal line. And so if you're totally nervous and afraid, then it's an extra thing to put on, the brain. So that helped me a lot. And so by saying, hey, it's really it's a challenge for me, then it's much easier, and a lot of people are thinking that they strong, big guys, big muscles, it's like machines or so. And of course there are few bobsleigh drivers who are just pushing, and even though if they're crashing or so, they're just pushing again without anything. But I think most people are either nervous or really nervous or afraid when they're driving bobsleigh. So I think it's really important to speak to someone. Of course, you can always do it. It can always be a group thing, but can you find certain individuals to speak with? And it doesn't matter if it's you're a football player or you're going to high school or what. If there's something really pushing you, then you just have to let it out. And I think we everyone has one or two or three or four people you're really close to where you can talk about these issues here. So that's was my way into the bobsleighing.
I think that's really interesting. What I hear you say, Thomas, is that first and foremost you confided in somebody. You're actually open and honest, and in many respects you admitted some vulnerability. So you said to the driver, Tom, you said, look, I've got to be honest here, I'm really, really nervous. And so being open and honest, and I suppose that links to sort of a self-awareness piece there. I'm aware that I'm nervous, and I'm going to be brave enough to actually open up and speak to somebody here. It just so happened it was a teammate of yours, and then what I hear you say is actually, confiding in somebody, that helps, but also what that person said was really helpful, which is, hey, stop, hey, look, Thomas, it's okay, this is understandable. Everybody is nervous when they first get in a bobsleigh. That's a natural thing. And so hearing those words and him talking a little bit about control, the brake man and stuff like that. You've got control of the brakes and what have you. So helping you focus on what you can control, helping you understand that it's a completely natural emotion to experience that anxiety. That really helped you. And what I say is when you speak to an audience, and we'll come on to your motivational speaking later in the show, but when you speak to an audience, especially young people, it's that two-pronged process. It's helping people understand that nerves is okay. It's a natural thing, and actually speaking to yourself or hearing somebody say, "Look, it's cool. It's fine. We're in control here." That's really useful.
Yeah. So, but of course there was several things where we have to use our minds really good, our brains, mentality, psychology really, really much. I think another thing was crashing in a bobsleigh. It was like, I think you can never explain how it is unless you're trying it yourself. If I had to explain a little bit, when you're crashing in a bobsleigh, it's like, I know it's not. Luckily enough, it's not everyone who's tried an accident in traffic. But I'll compare it a little bit to an accident in traffic. The difference is that in bobsleighing, you're not crashing in 5 seconds or 7 seconds. You're crashing until the sled is not moving anymore, and normally you're crashing until the end of the track, because it goes down all the way, and sometimes you're going up, crashing up the brake track, and then you're crashing backwards again because you have to get to the lowest point of the track there. So one of the challenges, normally when you're going in, if you're going just down the road, you won't think that, I have to take care of not being driven down by a car, or coming in an accident. Of course, there are some people in the world who have some mental illness that'll think that, but normal people won't think that. But in bobsleigh, it's just like that. Once in a while, you're crashing. And like I said again before, that of course there are a few people who can just brush it off their shoulders and then go back again and push 100% an hour later or the next day. But most people have to do something mentally. And for me, it was like, I knew I was going to crash in a bobsleigh. I knew I would crash perhaps in 1 hour, or I would crash in 4 months, because it's not like, when you're crashing. It's of course when the pilot makes a mistake, and so for me it was about trying to keep control when I was crashing. You feel when you're going in the curves in a bobsleigh, and suddenly you can feel the sled is tipping. Sometimes it's like a gentle tip, and then it's just like now hell breaks loose, and sometimes you're just being thrown back and forth, breaking bones and everything, but just try to keep calm and just try to hold on. It's very important that you're staying in the sled, because it's even though you can get badly injured, it's more safe in there instead of just letting go. So that was also a mental thing, but also how do you then cope with it, not only as an individual but also as a team, and of course it's about supporting each other and trying to talk everything through, and what can we do better next time. Normally it's the pilot's fault that you're crashing, but it's not like he's doing it on purpose or so. And sometimes you can try to use humor to get on top again, and you can use several tools, and of course also depending on how serious the injuries are. Of course, if you're if you are only bruised and so it's a little bit better. Only have a headache or so. But if you had a couple of guys to the hospital or so, it's a little bit serious. But yeah, so that was one of the important things. And then if I can just jump over to another theme in bobsleigh about the mentality.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that not really many people would think about when you're talking about bobsleighing, because of course most people think about the speed, the crashes and everything. But one of the biggest challenges is the workload you have. Normally you are, as a bobsleigh athlete or bobsleigh team, you're up at 6 or 7 o'clock, like most normal people who go to work. Then you're eating breakfast, and then you're driving bobsleigh. And when you have to, let's just say you have 2 runs in a bobsleigh before noon, then you have to take the bobsleigh to the track. You have to prepare it. You have to for example, do something with the runners. You have to warm up. You have to drive. It's not like 2 times in a row. You have perhaps 1 ride, and then you're waiting an hour. So a visit to the bobsleigh track can easily be 3.5, 4 hours. Then normally in the afternoon you are either driving bobsleigh again, or you are doing sprints, or you're doing physical training, weightlifting, and so. And then when you've been eating your dinner, you're going out in the garage and you're repairing the bobsleigh. And of course, it's depending on how bad you have been driving in the training, then you have to repair a lot. But you're also polishing the runners. Under a bobsleigh, you have 4 steel runners, and they have to be polished with sandpaper. And so a normal work day when you're in the bobsleigh season, it's approximately 9 in the evening. But then Friday and Saturday, you have to polish the runners even better, because they just have to be totally smooth. So some days you can go over midnight, and it's not like in football when you are having a lot of guys doing all the hard work, with the basic things. You're doing it yourself as a bobsleigh pilot or bobsleigh athlete. So a normal work day would be 12, 14, 16, 18 hours sometimes, and that's very tough, because especially when you're coming from some sports where you are of course using hours, you can perhaps train 1 or 2 times as a normal, really elite sportsman. I did that. I trained, of course, a bit harder as in athletics compared to football, but still it wasn't anywhere near. And you have to cope with that workload. So one thing is that you are getting used to it, but it's also how you are giving yourself energy. And we did a lot of on team basis. We for example, when we were polishing the runners, we were sometimes like having a party, and if we were in Austria, we'll perhaps have a Weissbier, that's the local beer from Austria, and having some local Schlager music on and so on, and having a little party at the same time when we were having doing the serious work. Because it's one thing is to work 14, 16, 18 hours in one day, but if you're doing it 3-4 weeks in a row from October to February, only with 1 week's vacation or break once in a while, then it's pretty hard for the mind. So we did a lot of funny things. We also had like a leadership innovation tool called MacGyver Development Step 10. It was like a feedback tool where if some of the guys on the bobsleigh team had a good idea, then we thought, hey, how would the former action star MacGyver, what would he think about it, or what would he do? So it meant that it was totally fun to come with all these good ideas and try to develop everything instead of not doing it. So we tried just to to be aware of the psychology, both the individual but also the team psychology in most areas of the sport. So it was fantastic 4 years with the bobsleigh team.
There's so many rich themes running through that, Thomas. I mean, I just, if I may, I want to take you back 3 or 4 minutes because it's just brilliant. I think, firstly, what I heard you say was that, and really, really interesting as well, and something I strongly believe in, you didn't go into bobsleigh just saying, well, we're not going to crash, and have this mindless optimism. It was very much, this will happen. I don't know when. It might be tomorrow. It might be in a couple of months. So in many respects, you braced yourself for that. And I dare say, as you were bracing yourself, you were brainstorming how you were going to deal with it. And then after that happened, what I hear you say is that you had to mentally deal with it. And being part of a team, you possibly helped each other deal with the crash. Being in a team, it sounds to me, helped you deal with the hard work that, I mean, incredible, as you said, 6 a.m. till 9 at night, then up till midnight on a weekend. But I love what you said there in terms of we played music, we had a beer, we had fun as we did that. And what that reminds me of, Thomas, I talk to coaches about having 2 dials, a stretch dial and a support dial. And in many respects, as competitors, we have a stretch dial and a support dial. And the way I would describe it is, you guys were stretched because you were working so hard, so you had your stretch dial really turned up, but you also had your support dial turned up. You were having fun, you were joking, you were having a beer, you had music, you were having a party, as you said. So great teamship. And then the final strand I heard there was leadership. And I love the way you've taken what could be probably what is taken, or quite rightly taken seriously in the world of organisations, but the world of sport, leadership, right? It's very important. But you had fun with it. You know, this MacGyver index, what would MacGyver do? Takes me back to the days when Tiger Woods was first coming onto the scene, having been a golf pro and a golf coach and then doing a lot in golf. We had a saying within our county team, WWTD, what would Tiger do? What would Tiger do? And over the years that changed because things happened there in Tiger's life that perhaps we wouldn't copy. But you know, what would MacGyver do? What would MacGyver do? I love it. And one thing I wanted to ask before we move on to the throw-ins, one final question. You've got a really interesting sporting background here because you went from team sport to individual sport. And I know you did the relay in athletics, but basically team sport in football, individual sport, and then team sport again, albeit a smaller unit. What differences, by and large, I mean, you've talked a little bit about this, but what differences did you experience between individual sports and team sports? Did you find the individual sport harder from a motivational perspective or from a confidence perspective? Or what was tougher or easier, or what was the different dynamics there?
Yeah, for me, the hardest thing was the individual sport, and especially when I came to moving to the city where I'm living in now, training alone, because of course I had some satisfaction with doing great in training, satisfaction with making personal records on 100, 200 meters, satisfaction with being a member of the Danish national team and so. But for me, it went a little bit from a thing I loved to just being numbers. And it was not like I was totally unhappy or depressed or so. But I wasn't just really, really happy. And I in my life in general, I always try to follow the flow, like coming, taking my strength and then putting it into some activities where I could shine, help other people, make them better. So that was also the reason why I went to bobsleighing, because to be honest, I really didn't know if I would like it, but I just liked to be a part of a team who were going towards the same goal, doing the same training. It was also really physical training, and then it's also important to say that a lot of people, or some people, are saying, "Hey, why did you go like that? That was a little bit funny." But if you're looking at my shift in sports or activities, I've always taken my strength and try to build them then to continue my journey or my life or what you can you can say that. So for me it was pretty natural to go to the bobsleigh team. So for me it of course it's more complex when you are in a team, because it's not only yourself or only yourself and your coach or so, but it's just much more satisfying to have the relations, and I think we'll perhaps we're coming to them again later when we're talking about my book and my motivational speaking and so. But the relations are just just so important to me. For me, it's much more satisfying to do something together with a team than perform fantastic as an individual. And I know it's different there are some people who are really not perhaps focusing so much on relations and being together, and there are also some people who are working better alone. But I just love the satisfaction of being together, of having emotions together. It's very important for me. So yeah.
Okay, interesting. Now let's move on to this fascinating world of throw-ins, and let's start with you hold the Guinness World Record for the longest football throw-in at a mammoth, a whopping 51.33 meters.
Yeah.
What was and look, in danger of repeating ourselves a bit here because it's going to be the same kind of qualities and standards, but behaviours. What made you go for that world record? What was your motivation, and how did you do it? How did you set about doing it?
Yeah, in 2008, I've been a throwing coach for approximately 4 years, and I thought, hey, if I'm the only throwing coach in the world, it would be pretty cool to have the longest throw-in also. So I thought it was an official Guinness World Record set in 1998 by Mike Lochner from the States. He's been throwing approximately 48.17 meters, and I could throw 40 meters, and that's very far, because if you're a good pro football player, if you can throw around 35, that's really, really far. So, but I also knew that I couldn't beat the world record with the normal throw-in, because I had a good technique and I was pretty strong. So then suddenly one day I saw a flip throw-in in the television, and a flip throw-in is where you are doing a run-in, then you're jumping down on the ball, making a flip, land, and then you're throwing the ball. And when I saw that, I thought, hey, that can't be that hard. So I just took my ball down at the local stadium in my hometown, and I tried it. And just before I had to try, I just saw the little girl with the blue shirt on YouTube. When she did it, it was just like whoop whoop. Then she had made it. So hey, I just tried it and make a really good run in. And I thought just before, hey, I'm going to break the record right now. So I was full of confidence. But then 2 days after, I was laying down at my physiotherapist, and I thought, hey, this is going to be a big challenge. So I knew I had to get some help. So in a period of approximately 6 months, I had help from 3 different gymnast coaches. First, a good old work colleague here from my hometown called Henrik. He learned me to have my hands and my head down, and that was the first. Yeah, it was first time I learned, because I was a non-gymnast. I had been weighing approximately 100 kilos for many years. But he learned me to have my head down, hands down, and so. And then a couple of months after, I had a local gymnast coach, Johnny Østergaard. He teach me to do a flip without the ball, but making a real flip. And then a couple of months after, again, I had got help from the Danish National coach in gymnasts. gymnastics called Frank, and I had the chance to train in a really gymnastic hall and so yeah. So I was getting pretty good at the flip throw, and then I had a chance to beat the world record in August 2008. It was in the middle of the national match between Denmark and Spain, and yeah, it was a full stadium. I had 4 attempts, so it was. You can say that okay, you should have been totally motivated when you did these world record attempts. Of course, I was totally motivated, but I was just so nervous, and I had 2 reasons for being nervous. First of all, I had I've never tried to stand alone in front of a full stadium with people clapping, and the other thing was that the same day there had been a plane crash in the Madrid airport with 150 people dying. So it was a little bit like, okay, it was supposed to be a total show, but how are you making a show when there are 150 people just been killed the same day? Yeah. So, but I also knew that I couldn't do it without support. So I encouraged the audience to clap, and you can see that on YouTube. You really get the whole show there. But again, it was fantastic experience. I only threw approximately 44 meters, so it was pretty good, but still 4 meters from the world record. But I had a lot of motivation. I was training, and I had a world record attempt more in 2009, and it was in the match between Hertha Berlin and Wolfsburg. It was in the Berlin Olympic Stadium, and there were 40,000 spectators. The challenge there was that I didn't beat the world record, and the reason was that it was raining. It was really raining, and I had to make my run-in on the athletics track. And when the athletic track gets wet, it's like ice. So I had 2 choices. The first choice would be just to cancel it all, and the second choice would be do it, but have an really catastrophe, really disaster throw.
Yeah.
And I chose number 2 because I knew that I probably wouldn't have the chance again to throw there. So before every throw, I was just like 40,000 clapping. I was just thinking, oh, it's really bad here. and I was only throwing 35 meters and so on. You can say from a psychological or mental perspective, it's pretty bad to do it, but it couldn't be better because I have to put the ball just in front of my feet, not to crash, and so it was the challenge or the choice between not doing it all or get a big experience, but with very little success. So, but again, I didn't beat the world record there, but it was a great experience. I was beginning to throw approximately 47 meters in training. But then in 2009, I heard over the internet that an English guy called Danny Brooks had set a new world record with 49.78.
Oh wow!
And it was just like you're coming towards a goal, and then the goal is moving. A goal is not support to be moving. So I was very frustrated. I was angry. I was also a little bit sad, also because at that time I've been training, almost 2 years and been breaking bones, hurting myself because it's pretty dangerous to do the flip throw in training. So, but then I thought about, hey, I was remembering that when you're doing world record attempts with a flip throw in, there are no regulations of the wind. You can have so much wind as you like. So then I was thinking about a small city called Vorupør at the Danish coast. It's a really windy place, and I thought, hey, it could be pretty cool to make a world record attempt just with 24 25, 30 meters per second with the wind. So, but then again, I really, felt the inside, and I couldn't really live with doing a world record attempt with so much wind.
Yeah.
So I thought, hey, what can help me? What is my biggest challenge at the moment? And I think that's a pretty good thing to think about, no matter if you're individual or team or so. What is the thing that is it's the greatest challenge for us, and how can we improve it? And the biggest challenge for me was to jump on the ball, because normally when you're exercising or just sitting in a warm room, you're sweating your palms, and it's not a good feeling to make a full run in and jump down on the ball with sweaty hands. So I thought that must be the thing I should improve or get help with. So one Friday evening, I was sitting in the couch here in my home, and I have two kids, Daniel and Isabella. And Friday night, they've always seen a thing called Disney show. That's Friday evening, cartoons for kids. And normally my kids, they are getting some candy and so. But I was sitting in the couch, and suddenly my daughter Isabella went past me. I don't know why, but I touched her hands, and then I thought, hey, aren't her hands sticky, like in a moderate way? So I thought, hey, can I use that? So I contacted DR1, that's like BBC in England, the national TV station, and I asked them, hey, shouldn't we test what kind of sticky stuff is best for a flip throw-in? So they said yes. I came on a national kids program called Summa Summarum, and together with some kids, I had 3 balls, and the first ball was with prunes, the second ball was with sweets, and the third ball was with licorice. And I had one standing throw-in with every ball, and then at the end a flip throw-in with the winner, and the winner was licorice. So since that, I've been using licorice when I'm doing world record attempts, and the licorice helped me a lot. It meant that I was totally secure when I was jumping down on the ball, and I could also release the ball again, because it was only sticking in a moderate way. So in April 2010, I was throwing 47.00. Then in May 2010, I was throwing 48.60. That was over the old world record, still approximately a meter from the new one. And then in June 2010, I was throwing 51.33, new official Guinness World Record.
What an incredible story. That 50-meter mark sounded like the classic 4-minute mile. Nobody could get above it, and then and then you did. Wow. I mean, again, some rich themes, and I love the. I mean, I'm thinking of the word bravery more than anything else in terms of the Hertha Berlin Stadium scenario. I've actually been to that stadium. It's an incredible stadium, and the bravery to actually have that narrative of, okay, I've got to go out there in front of 40,000 people, and this is going to fail. I'm not going to do this here. In fact, I'm going to have a disaster, but I'm going to do this anyway, because I'm going to do this for the experience. You know, I just think is incredible. I think, I suppose one quick question I want to ask you, and I say quick because we've got much to talk about, and I'm mindful of time, but do you think you would have, and I think I know what the answer here is, but you had 3 coaches and you had a bit of innovation with regard to licorice. 3 coaches, innovation. I'm guessing you'd tell me that you would have got, well, not that you wouldn't have got near the 50-meter mark, but you certainly wouldn't have achieved the world record if you hadn't have used those coaches and hadn't have used that piece of innovation. Yeah,
you're totally right. One of my best advice when I'm talking to people, when I'm speaking, or just in general, is that you have to get help. That's one of the most important things you can do. There is so many resources out there. It's in our culture now, it's a little bit like, oh, the individual person has to really do hard work. You have to hold out. You have to just keep on fighting. But sometimes it's just much easier to, like I say, let the other do the work, like I say in my book, because there are so many people who would help you. And of course, I have no statistics, but I think that 90% of the times in my life I've been asking for help, people are saying yes. They're saying yes, perhaps not today, but I can help you in a weekend. So people are so friendly. Sometimes you have to pay for help. That's also a thing. But there are so many resources out there. There are resources in your family, resources at your friends, resources in your hometown, and now there are resources on the internet. You can get help online. Right now we're talking at a podcast now, so that's one of my best advices, is to just get help. There are so much help. And then to the innovation part of things, it doesn't have to be a big thing with companies and who are only doing innovation. There's also daily life innovation. There are small innovation. There are also personal innovation. You can do innovation in a family. It's just like, look at this idea. Do you think it could help you? Yeah, perhaps. Then try it. And you just have to remember that sometimes you have to say, okay, it didn't work. Let's try some other things. And it's a lot about what do you call it? Self-esteem also, to be able to do some things who are not working. A lot of people think we have to be perfect. This have to work. I have to tell a story about how I really did well. But one of the reasons why I did it in Berlin, it was also to tell a good story. And you can't underestimate a good story, not only when you're talking like me to people, but also a good story for yourself. So when I'm taking initiative, it's also often to create a good story. So I think telling good stories to yourself, to your friends, to your colleagues, about how not only the success but also how it didn't really went so good, that's very, very important. So because then you're feeling like, oh, you're just living life with the ups and downs who everybody has. So
I agree. And when you say that, to be able to tell a good story, and I love what you said, not just to others, but to yourself. And it reminds me of a book where the author talks about being a memory architect and actually creating memories. And some of those memories that story isn't going to be filled with success all the time. It's okay to fill it with an experience. You wouldn't necessarily say it's failure. It's just an experience, and it's an incredible experience. And talk about being a memory architect, being a throw-in architect. You're a professional football throw-in coach, and you're helping players develop their throw-ins, long, fast and clever throw-ins, and you're helping them learn those long, fast and clever throw-ins. I don't know, Thomas, tell me about, obviously I see that from a tactical perspective and the capacity to score goals, but the tactics and the technical sides of the game are inextricably linked with the mental side. So do you feel your role as a throw-in coach, your helping mentality on the pitch, there's got to be a mindset element to this as well?
Yeah, absolutely. You can say that, just to start it up here so people can understand a little bit. When I'm working with clubs, it's often with keeping possession on the ball when you have a throw-in under pressure where everybody are marked, or bring chances after throw-ins where everybody are marked. And to just give some numbers first, it's I just saw them last week. It's a new article where people are researching about throw-ins under pressure, and the season before I came in, the 17-18 season, Liverpool FC was number 18 out of 20. So third baddest in the Premier League, and Jurgen Klopp said it himself, we were losing the ball all the time. And in the season when I came last season, also coaching this season, Liverpool was number 1 in Premier League. Yeah, so just totally 50% better or so compared to the last season. And Liverpool are also number 2 in Europe with possession after throw-ins. Number 1 in Europe is a Danish team called FC Midtjylland. That's one of the other teams I'm coaching. So it's pretty good to
Yeah,
to
good
see
stats.
that it's working. But just to come back to your question again, what does the mental side mean? Yeah, I can say if you don't have a throw-in strategy, if the players are not educated, then they're feeling under pressure. Let's take the first Champions League match against Bayern Munich here last season. Bayern Munich had only approximately 28% possession when they had a throw-in under pressure. And why did they do that? And it was because if Bayern Munich can throw it fast to their teammates, then they had no real strategy, or they only had a simple strategy. And it meant that they were only throwing the ball down the line. And if you're just throwing it down the line with any real big strategy, then there is a risk of either the opponents are winning the duel, or if the attacking team is winning the duel, they'll just flick it on to the opponent's central defender or something like that. And why do they throw it down the line then, the fullbacks from Bayern Munich for example, in this game? It was because they were getting more and more and more and more under pressure. The less movement from their teammates, less options, no strategy. It was just like, hey, why isn't there something happening? And the more stress, and then suddenly the referee says, hey, you have to hurry on, and no movement and no space created, and so it's like increased pressure. It's a little bit like, of course you can't compare it directly, but people getting down with stress in the society, it's often also more and more and more and more and more pressure, and then suddenly you have to do something, and it's the same with the fullbacks if they have too much pressure. So on the opposites, you can say, what are we doing in Liverpool FC or some of my other clubs? We are either throwing it very fast in the right situations, because in some situations it can be very bad to throw it fast, and if we're not throwing it fast, we're having patience. So and then of course we have a lot of systems, we have a lot of movements, we have a lot of things we're doing, but in general you can say in the mental perspective, it's like, fast, and then if the fast option isn't there, it's like, relax, wait, and we know that we can easily wait 8, 10, 12, 14 seconds before the referee gets angry, and that's a lot of seconds where we can create space. So if you're looking, I know you have to have some knowledge to look into it, but if you're looking at Liverpool when we're having a throw-in, it's really calm. It's really, if we can't throw it fast, then it's then we are really calm. We know what to do, and of course, sometimes we also lose the ball at a throw-in under pressure, because that's the hardest pass in football. But still, we are pretty calm. We know what to do as a team, and the individual players, for example, the fullbacks or the wingers who takes the throw-ins, they are also educated, so they are secure in what to do. They have the self-esteem to know that we can do it. So I think that's, if you're taking some of the mental thing, and then you can say that we're not doing so many long throw-ins towards the opponent's goals in Liverpool, but I'm doing that in some of my other clubs. And of course, there are also a mental part of, making your maximum throw-in, because it's like, let's just say we have a player who can throw 35 meters. That's a little bit further than the first post in the air, and if you're only throwing with 80% of your maximum or 90%, then we're only going 30 meters or so, and then it's much shorter, not so dangerous. So most of the times when you do a long throw in towards the opponent's goals, it's either maximum 100%, or it's perhaps 98 because we choose to throw a little bit shorter because of the tactical things. But again, it's a little bit like a throw in athletics or jumper. So you have to maximize your energy. And I'll say it for me. There are different ways to do that because some players would like to psych themselves a little bit up, really push themselves up, filling them with energy. And some other players, like a more relaxing style of throw where they are a little bit more in harmony or so. So because it gives them a better technique and they can still be explosive. And so there are a lot of mental things to throw-ins.
I love what you said over the last 5 minutes. And if I can throw some stuff back at you, I think what I love about this is it's so similar to what I do essentially with sports people, but footballers. You use the term strategy. We are going to have throw-ins in a game of football. That is inevitable. So why not have a strategy? And it's a little bit like when I say to coaches, to managers, to players, there are times when you're going to be distracted. There are times when you're going to lose a little bit of confidence. It is inevitable that emotions will take over at times. There will be, and all of these psychological concepts and constructs will take place on the pitch. So why not have a mental framework? So you talk about a throw-in strategy, I talk about a mental framework, and I think these things are so often overlooked. When you talk to players about, well, what are you trying to achieve mentally? More often than not, in fact, probably 98% of the time, they'll scratch their head and go, oh, well, I'm not really that sure. Some of them do it quite well anyway, but they don't necessarily do it excellently. So there's a real parallel here, because obviously when you go into a club and you say, well, what strategies have you got around throw-ins, and you'll get blank stares and, well, I just throw the ball in, I throw it long every time, or whatever, I just do what I see. So the first one is strategy, and as you said yourself, you used the term calm. It helps players and the team have a calm mind and helps develop certainty. When we have a strategy or when we have a framework, we have calmness and we have certainty. The other word I wrote down there was flexibility. And again, parallels with what I do. I love what you said about there's a time, so two options. There's times when we're going to deal with things fast, and then so deal fast and effectively. And then there's times when we're going to do things slow. Doing slow and effectively. So dealing fast and effectively and doing slow and effectively. And again, I think that parallels with the mental side. By and large, you want players to be able to think quickly, clearly, and strategize quickly on the pitch from a mental perspective. But there are times tough to deal with situations where they might have to talk to themselves and take some breaths and deal with the situation a little bit slower. So I've written down strategy, I've written down flexibility, calmness, certainty, and then at the end there, I love what you said about maximising energy. And everybody's a little bit different, and some are going to have to increase their energy and some lower down their energy. And again, that comes back to the flexibility piece. So as you've mentioned there, plenty of parallels with the mental side of the game, but also, that the technical and the tactical and the mental side of the game constantly interacting when you're doing a throw-in.
Yeah.
So I'm delighted I asked you that. And then to finish off this chat, let's briefly discuss your book, which I'm going to do my finest Danish accent here. A couple of weeks ago, I interviewed somebody who's written a book about German coaching, and I was trying to do my finest German accent. So now it's Danish. Doven Energy. That's the title of your book. Doven Energy. So lazy energy.
Yeah.
Really interesting, the idea, this notion of lazy energy. And actually, if you go on LinkedIn, you've actually because it's a book that's in Danish, but you've written the titles to each chapter in English. So you've got chapters such as relax when you can, pull people down in the couch, take the easy way out, help if you have strength, let others do the work, cheat around, have more parties. Really, really interesting approach here. So can you talk to me a bit about this book? Because it's obviously not about, hey, do nothing. There's a real paradox here, I'm guessing. So talk to me a bit about this book and the main themes.
Yeah, first of all, it's like you say, it's the clever laziness. In Denmark, we have a challenge that we have approximately 250,000 people down with stress. We are only approximately 6 million people in Denmark, so we're putting it over to the numbers of England. It was like you had 2.5 million down with stress in England.
Yeah.
But I think that the numbers are again approximately the same in the western part of the world. So it's a big challenge. But it's not a book about stress. It's more a book like about how you can how you can have work joy, how you can reach your dreams in life, how you can enjoy life, and the reason why I have the 7 lazy principles is because I was a little bit fed up with cliches about working hard, give it all you can, hold on, and not because it's wrong, but we just heard about the same things approximately the last 30 or 40 years or so, and you're hearing it every time, not only in sports but also in companies. The CEO are saying, "Oh, we've just been working hard," but what is working hard? And then I just thought, hey, I want to dig down in what is hard work, what is achieving your dreams, but also trying to take a approach with humor. So, for example, when I'm saying relax when you can, it's not like you have to relax all the time, but it's more like you have to put small boxes of enjoyment or small schedules of filling up your energy in your daily life. Because one of the biggest challenges with people who are, for example, getting stressed is that they don't feel that they have to have a break, because scientists have found out that the people who are most passionate about their work, that's also the people who are mostly blind about the need of having a pause in your daily work or your normal day. So a lot of people who are coming down with stress are having, there are some signals to it, but they don't see them because they have so much passion. So you can say it's a little bit like, on one hand, we like to be passionate, we like to have a lot of work joy, but on the other hand, we also like to have a life where we're not breaking totally down with everything. So relax when you can is about finding out what is really giving me energy in my life. How can I fill up my energy tank? So if you're really good at that, like you're good at your work or some are good at your sport, then you also, really, really filled up. And the second lazy principle about getting each other down in the couch, it's it's about social relations. It's about it's about how can we keep the social relations when we are, for example, at work, because there's been some researching in Denmark, I think it was 2011 or so, where they had a big research on teams in companies, and they thought, hey, how is the best teams created? And a lot of people thought it was best teams was created with the smartest people and people who are really ambitious. But in that research, they found out that the best teams were the teams where they had the closest relations, because the closer relations you have, it's, for example, much easier to get help. If I have a good relation to you, then it's easier for me to say, hey, I've heard about you have a podcast, and I'll really like to share my thoughts and knowledge. Could you help me with becoming a part of that or so, but if we didn't have a good relation, then it would be much harder, and also by giving help, it's much easier when we have a good relation or a strong relation. So relation building is really important. The challenge is just that, for example, in companies where you are struggling with the money all the time, and so and there are a lot of companies where they're doing that, then the time for collegial work and connections, it's been brought down, because it's not so important. It's much more important to be productive. And of course you can't chat with your colleagues 3 hours a day. But can you just have 5 minutes there, 10 minutes there, or take, for example, once a week a walk in the forest or by the sea, relaxing in nature? Nature is one of the best ways of giving energy and building relations. Then you can really, get better results in a company. And then, of course, we don't have time to take all the lazy principles, but for example, again, let the others do the work. It's like I said a little bit before, sometimes it's much easier to get help than do it yourself, and it's not because you're lazy, but it's just easier, and you'll be better, and you'll spare time. So all the 7 lazy principles, they've been really popular in Denmark. In 2018, I was speaking 80 times for companies, and it was between all my throwing coaching. So and the people are saying like it's a little bit refreshing not to be talking about the same cliches all the time. And then we are also, when we are using our human, using the knowledge, and so we are getting a little bit deeper, because instead of just talking from person to person in cliches, then it's a little bit easier to really get down to what you hear, what is important here, and how can we change it instead of just talking about working hard all the time. So yeah.
Thomas, we need this book in English. Are you
Yeah.
planning to do this?
Yeah, I'm planning to do it. I don't know when. It's been a bestseller in Denmark. So, but I'm a thing called a self-publisher.
Yes.
So
yes.
So it's a little bit like, hey, okay, what does it cost to translate this? Okay, it costs approximately £6,000 or so. Okay, okay, perhaps later. So, but there's a lot of people who have been asking about it. So I'll just think I have to translate it. So because there is a lot of interest about the book from English-speaking people, even though it's not been promoted or advertised in anywhere. So
definitely, it sounds great. And look, I have loved every single second of this conversation. I just think there's been some really insightful stuff. Well, you've been a memory architect, mate, as we said earlier, so absolutely fantastic, and so much rich material to learn from there. Thomas, where can people find you, mate? Are you on Twitter, or do you use social media? How can people where can they find you, and how can they get in contact?
Okay, I have several places. I think if it's like the best places I think is LinkedIn, because I'm thinking it's pretty easy to communicate on LinkedIn, so they'll find me on LinkedIn just like on Thomas Gronnemark. Then I'm also at Facebook. Just search my name. Then I'm also at Instagram, and then I'm also on Twitter. And then the fifth thing is I'm also still on smoke signals. I'm looking after smoke signals like they're used in America at a certain time, but there's not so many people who are using it anymore, smoke signals. So right now I'm pretty alone. So, but if someone would like to be in on smoke signals, just send me a message on LinkedIn first, and then we'll communicate by that. So
then you'll communicate via smoke.
Yeah.
And all right. Well, look, thank you so much, Thomas, for your time today. This has been awesome.
You're welcome.
Now, everyone, wasn't that great? I really enjoyed that podcast, and I'd really love to hear what you, the listener, thinks. So please do get in touch via Twitter or Facebook or through my website, danabrahams.com, to tell me exactly what you think of the Sports Psych Show. And if you do have any suggestions, I'd be delighted to hear them. I'm really looking forward to next week's episode. Bye for now.